Hey everybody, thank you for listening into the Goodness Village podcast. I'm really excited for today's episode because I get to sit down with one of GV's volunteers, Ray Zarodney. Ray, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic.
So you've been here all day. You just got done with your volunteer visitor, quote unquote, shift, right?
Correct.
So what did you do today as a volunteer here out of the village?
Well, I started at 10 and I took one of our neighbors to Hayward.
Okay.
He had some business court papers that needed to get done, and we went there. Then from there, he needed to get some paint, so we went to Home Depot there, and then I brought him back, and then I picked up Mitch, one of the neighbors here.
Wonderful.
And took him to get a prescription filled at Walmart, and I bought him some Shack burgers, they call it. He a couple weeks ago he gave me some when I took him to the grocery store. He said, "Here, try these." So I was really touched with the fact that he gave me, two of those. They were actually really good. They were actually delicious, and so I wanted to pay him back. So I bought some for him today. So then brought him back, and then after this, taking another neighbor, Peggy, to the eye doctor at 4. So
you are our official Uber driver for GV.
it seems to fall in my lap. I don't mind it. In fact, I enjoy it.
Well, I know that you have been such a big influence here at Goodness Village. I mean, you first jumped on the team over here as a volunteer just a couple months ago, right?
Correct.
Can you kind of talk about how you first heard about the village or how you ended up being part of this community?
Yeah, so I had no idea it even existed. And I've been retired now for maybe 8 years, and I've always wanted to volunteer, give back, I've done well in my life. And so, but I didn't want to just volunteer to volunteer. I wanted to find something that I really would enjoy and be interested in. And I hadn't found that yet. So there was a volunteer job fair that was tabletop type, where companies, organizations were looking for volunteers. They would represent them. And there was a lot of them at the senior center in Pleasanton. And I went to that. A friend of mine sponsored it. He put the whole thing on. And I was really impressed with it. So I could walk from one company to another. What do you do? What kind of volunteer program do you have here? And each time I went, I thought, no, it's not for me. No, I don't think I like it. And then Goodness Village had a tabletop, and Jackie was there.
Oh, Jackie, our community engagement manager. She has done such incredible work.
She does.
On behalf of GV, and she's just, obviously you're here, so it worked out.
I had a really good talk with her. And what drew me to this place, literally, I was drawn to it, was the homeless part of it, because I thought this is a good way to give back, helping somebody in need. So I was drawn to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I feel like being drawn to support unhoused neighbors, right? We talk about homeless folks. There's such a stigma, right? People are, obviously it's a huge issue out there, but when it comes to actually doing something about it, people are like, that's scary. There's, what you see on the news and on movies and all this stuff.
Right.
But you clearly overcame those hesitations.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about that with that?
Yeah, sure. So over the years, I traveled a lot in my job, and I would see homeless everywhere. I mean, I would be in Hawaii and there's homeless, San Francisco is a lot of homeless, Oakland, they're everywhere. And you're right, on the news, you hear where the cities are trying to solve that problem. It's a problem, all right? But no one's ever, that I know of, I've seen it done successfully. They just move them out. Well, I've done very well in my life, and I've never had to experience that part of living. I know they're there. I know they're on the streets, but I would really not pay much attention to them. So when this homeless came up, I thought, they're all human beings, and there's a story there. And I was really interested to learn more about the homeless world, how it worked. It's out there. There's homeless everywhere. And I would get stories here at the village where one neighbor would tell me, oh, yeah, Safeway, I slept in the dumpster behind that store. And I'd go, I shop at that store. You mean you were right behind that store sleeping in a dumpster? Yep. You know, I got, and they're here now, and they're doing much, much better. But the stories that they have really intrigued me. You know? And I'm trying to get into their world because there is a separate world that homeless have, and they know how to survive. And some homeless do it much better than others, but they know where to go for food, they know where to go for medical, and they just know how to work it, you know?
Yeah.
And that world I didn't know anything about.
There's so many great social services and organizations out there that do a lot of that outreach and those off the street needs. But we're talking about folks that are living on the streets. They still build community around that, albeit it's often a unhealthy community, right?
Correct.
But people need people. So there's a whole world of what it's like to be unhoused over there. I think Goodness Village kind of stands to continue that community, but in a healthy, supportive environment.
Absolutely. This village here is a step up. You know, it's a big step up. And from what I can see, from what the church does, and there seems to be a separation from the village and the church, but yet the church is concerned, and they're sponsoring and they're creating this environment. And the fact that you could live here and live here as long as you want is really something unheard of for homeless. But, you know, they have a place to live. They can shut a door at night and not be on the street and lock it. And they have a shower, and they have their own little kitchen and a bed. Huge step up from what they had before. So I've never seen this combination here of church on 30-something acres and what they're doing with it, how they're doing the right things for humanity. They got it. Their church has figured it out, and it's to help. You know, it's to help. And I know most of the neighbors now, and because I'm really interested in all of them. And it's amazing, their stories. So many of them were married. They had a nice house. They were making 6 figures a year. Beautiful car. They had everything going. And then some shift in their life hit. I mean, I think all of us at one point in our lifetime goes through a shift of some sort, and they just spiraled down from that. It could have been a divorce, that spiraled them down, whatever it was, and they ended up on the streets.
Yeah, we have 28 tiny houses, so 28 neighbors and 28 stories.
28 stories, yeah.
28 unique stories of why people ended up unhoused in the first place, and also 28 great stories of how they are no longer unhoused.
Exactly. And the people I see here, they're grateful. And I like the work program that the Goodness Village has. So, they want the neighbors to work. Or work off their rent bill, reduce it.
Yeah, the housing part of the tiny house aspect of Goodness Village really just a first step, right? It's great that stability and that security and safety for neighbors, but the rest of what we do at Goodness Village is the growth and the healing aspect of it, and the vocational program is a big part of that. Giving people a sense of dignity to work and to contribute back to where they live. Yeah. Which is really cool to see as that's flourished over the last 3 years. Now, I want to ask you, as one of our awesome volunteers, you're more than just the Uber driver. Maybe that's what you're doing today. But for folks that might be interested in volunteering at Goodness Village, what opportunities are there? What have you been able to do and connect with neighbors over?
Yeah, for me, I look for the connection with that person. So I'm more into relationships of, getting to know them. And the more I know them, the more they open up. And the more comfortable they get. So that's what I do. Taking them to the store or to the pharmacy, all that gives me an opportunity to talk to them while they're in my car. And so it helps me understand them more, understand how a person can be doing very well in life and then end up, one of the neighbors here was sleeping under the freeway in Oakland. And I go by there just about every day in my work. And I look down and I see him down there. I said, "You were probably one of the ones down there." And she said, "Yeah, I was there 5 years." That's a story. Now she's doing really well here and happy, So, getting them back up off the ground, there's time that it takes to get them comfortable.
Yeah, you can't just, after being in a house for months and years, it's going to take more than just one, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you," and then you fix everything. No, it takes the time and intentionality. You're talking about building a relationship with these folks.
Exactly.
And that's so much of, from my understanding, and I hope you can speak into this, so much of what the quote-unquote, volunteer job, I guess, is just to be there and be somebody that folks can talk to.
Be there and have a sense of caring, that you really, I generally care about these people, and apparently it shows because I'm really interested in them. I want to know as much as they're willing to talk. I'll listen to them, but I'm really good at reading people. And my job, the reason I ended up doing so well, I had really good people skills. So I had 400 people under me, and I oversaw 28 companies in California. I was president of all of them. So I had a lot going on with people, and my whole job was people. It wasn't our product. It was just dealing with people, So I brought that skills that I had, I brought it here thinking, I would apply the same skill set of just listening, talking, and being interested in that person, and in time that developed into more of a comfortable relationship. Now I got to say, they're like friends for me. They're really. I look forward to Thursdays. I look forward to coming here and hanging out with my friends. And then whatever they want to do to help, I'll do it. So, what I know of this organization now. And I don't know everything, but I know enough to say, you guys are doing everything right here. In my opinion, you're doing everything right. You really have a program here that you don't see anywhere. It's very unique, I like the church aspect. I like all the property here.
We're very fortunate for the both the church and the land that we're on.
Yeah, so I really think it was well thought out, and I know there was probably issues in along the way, but as an outsider looking in that's experienced with people and companies and organizations, it's this good job here,
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, you've been a huge part of the growth and the change that's been happening here. You and all of our volunteers. We have an incredible staff, an incredible team that is making it happen. But doesn't happen without volunteers. Doesn't happen without folks like you to really build those relationships. Yeah. And the conversations that you're able to have with neighbors is going to be different than conversations that our staff is able to have.
Exactly. You're right with that. Another blessing I get out of being here on Thursdays is I go home, and I have I have a Victorian home, and it's a beautiful home. But I'm able to walk in there, and literally I just look around my house and go, how lucky am I You know, look how big this place is. You know, I compare to what they have, and I compare, and it humbles me. You know, to be here and be with the neighbors is a humbling effect. It grounds me. You know, it gives me some groundness to. You know, you're not up here high and mighty. You know, you're just like them. You're a human being. And so I go around and I look how lucky I am to have this car, have my home, have my family. You know, got a good life. This brings it real. This experience makes it, for me, real. And so I appreciate everything. Yeah.
I want to say thank you for sharing. Thank you for being part of this community. I think your heart and the things you've shared on this podcast ring true for obviously your experience, but for all our volunteers and what we're really trying to do here. You know, we have our neighbors here, and we're just trying to treat people like people. And what you've been able to do here is astounding. So again, Ray, thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for being on the podcast. And on behalf of all the neighbors, we are excited to see you next Thursday.
I'll be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Goodness Village podcast. Production and recording was done by the Village's operations team and in collaboration with Crosswinds Church. Music was created by Club 88 member AJ Parr. If you want to know more about Club 88, this podcast, or Goodness Village, please visit our website at gvlivermore.org. Thanks again for listening to The Good Pod.